You're watching the Live Well, brought to you by Rapala.
Hi, and welcome to the Live Well, presented by Rapala. Tommy Sanders and Ronnie Moore right here. And Ronnie, we just finished up a slam bang back-to-back events in the Palmetto State of South Carolina. Really, really good stuff. But now we move right into the dead center of our schedule for 2023. We're going to Alabama. We're going to the Coosa River. There's 280 miles of it. Starts up at Rome, Georgia. Ends up joining with the Tallapoosa to form the Alabama River down at Montgomery. And we're going to Lay Lake. Lay Lake, there's Bassmaster history there. We just never had an elite event there.
Yeah, it seems like every time you think of Lay Lake, the word beeswax pops up there. Those really cold Bassmaster Classics. We remember a couple years there in the early 2000s and 2010 range. Those were huge classics. But like you said, yeah, different time of year. February on the Coosa River is totally different than May on the Coosa River. The only tangible experience we have with the elites on the Coosa River kind of this time of the year would be in 2021. Neely Henry, just 2 lakes up. Yeah. From where we are now at Lay Lake, but we were in flood conditions there. That's the one big key at the Coosa River when you're not dealing with the spawn or the winter, probably in the winter as well. Water current, how much current is coming through those locks and dams, that's gonna determine how much it fishes like a river or how much it's gonna negate to being a lake.
Yeah, and the closer you are to that Logan Martin Dam, the more the current seems to affect the fishing and drive the narrative in that part of the river, right?
Yeah, and even though Lay Lake, I don't know how many acres it necessarily is, but it's
12,000, I think so.
Yeah, it's not nearly as big. I mean, we had Lake Murray at 50,000, we had 170,000 combined for Santee Cooper. So when you think of Lay Lake, it spans a lot of miles, but it's not that big. But man, there's a defined line. If you start running water out of Logan Martin, it probably takes an hour and a half, 2 hours to get down to Beeswax, which is where it kind of starts to become a lake. Below Beeswax, you have Paradise Point, all those other places to the south. It fishes like a lake, so you can kind of pick your poison. If they are running water, you can maybe run up to the dam and get right in a hurry, catch some good fish. But if they decide not to run water, maybe you take a right out of Beeswax and you go fish lake-like settings and creeks, some main river drags, points, things like that down lake.
Beeswax and Bully Creek, it's been one, Classics won in both of those, and of course up near the tail race, Aaron Martin, of course, right behind Jay Yellison in 2002, catching schooling fish while Jay was working about 200 yards there just below the dam. So many interesting stories there. In 1996, a guy we know named Davey Hyde finished second to George Cochran, who went against the conventional wisdom, did not fish out on the deep ledges in the hot weather. He went to a stump flat basically and caught them all.
Yeah, and we'll have to get Davey Hyde on Bassmaster. I've ribbed him a little bit because I remember the story about the big flotilla showing up to Davey because they could not get to George Cochran. So Davey thought, I'm gonna win this Bassmaster Classic. He did not. A couple years later though, he righted that wrong and won the Classic. Lay Lake does have a lot of history, and like you said, talking about Jay Yellis, talking about Aaron Martin's going up towards the tail races. We've had some college events at Lay Lake, those types of things. I remember Terry McWilliams at the pipe, the water discharge pipe. All these little places along the river, when the water is moving, you could find a tree sticking in the water and catch your limit off that tree every single day. It's crazy how it replenishes, how many fish are up in that river, and they're stagnant. They're not active until that water kicks on, and then it becomes like a brand new body of water up there. So we'll see how much water they move, but for May, and late April, they were moving considerable amounts of water just the last few weeks.
Absolutely. The weather looks pretty warm in the week leading up to there, all the way through practice, about 80s during the day and so forth like that. And chances of rain going to be just about every day, as is typical for this time of year.
Yeah, but I think that one thing that it's going to produce is some good techniques, that we're going to be able to see some fun ways of fishing. You'll see guys doing the shallow crankbaits probably, bladed jigs, things like that. Then you'll have those guys up in the water willow or bank grass doing the swim jigs and the Terminator popping frogs, things like that. Then you'll have guys who choose to stay in the river and they wade out schools of fish. Those schools of fish may be active in the water zone, but when it goes stagnant, they still are gonna relate to something, and you can see some maybe deeper fishing, some shaky head fishing, drop shot fishing out in the middle of the river for schools of bass that maybe aren't fired up when the water's not running. That'll kind of be the deal. There's a lot of locals in this thing, and it's gonna turn into more of a spot thing probably than a fishing tournament if the water isn't running. Those locals are all going to try to pound the same stuff, so a little bit of water movement probably wouldn't hurt the fishing at all.
Small place and might fish even smaller, so we'll just be ready for that, whatever happens. It's going to be the Whataburger Bassmaster Elite at Lay Lake, May 11th, 12th, 13th, and 14th. Have it covered for you Saturday and Sunday on FS1 and all week right here on Bassmaster.com. And that is the Live Well presented by Rapala.